Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Pure Evil, a place where we tell the true fairy tales of good, bad and pure evil. If that is something that tickles your fancy, please hit the like button, subscribe to the party and ring the hell out of that bell. Let's begin. In England, there are many places for one to visit that are woodlands and forests. It is an ideal place for a family day out, and it's also an ideal place for exercising, walking your dogs, or just going for a stroll. And England has many famous woodlands and forestry areas to do so. One place in particular is called Cannock Chase. Beautiful and stunning Cannock Chase is the perfect location for one to take in the spectacular nature that the world has to give. However, Cannock Chase is also one of the scariest, most haunted and paranormal active places in the world. From werewolves to aliens, there has been sightings of even soldier ghosts, and sightings of what we're going to speak about today, the black-eyed children of Cannock Chase. The story of black-eyed children has been around for a very long time. And it's not just in woods or forests, it also can be on the road, the streets, and even at your front door. The warning goes that if you see a black-eyed child, a child with no eyes but these big black gaping holes, you are not to engage with it. It is said that it brings forth omens and danger to those who do. In today's video, I will be talking about stories of those who witnessed these creatures. But before that, let me explain the area. Cannock Chase is just outside of Birmingham in England. And back in the 1800s, there was an outbreak in diphtheria, and many local children died. So many of those who witnessed this creature, it appears as a little girl with hollowed black eyes. They believed that she was a victim to diphtheria. However, there is another theory that it is a victim of a murder. A little girl in the 1960s, along with two others, were killed and murdered. Whether you believe that the stories are correct and that the child is from 1960s or 1800s, the fact remains that a child with hollow black eyes is being spotted in this area of Cannock Chase since 1980s and has continued to be spotted on a regular occasion, even from only a year or a year and a half ago. So 2021, in that summer, a couple went out to Birches Valley to do some camping. And this couple has been called Kylie and Ben, although that is not their real names. And they were about 16 or 17 years old. And during the coronavirus pandemic, the two had been kept apart. And they decided that once the whole restrictions were lifted and it would be safer to do so, they would leave and go on a camping trip. They told their story to the author Lee Brickley, and he said there was a decision that they soon lived to regret. So they set off in the summer 2021 to go camping, and they left the car and went about 15 minutes into the woods and set up camp. Come midnight, they decided to settle down for the night, and they went into their tent and zipped it up. Soon, though, they started to hear the crack of little twigs, stones rumbling, and also bushes rustling. At first, they thought it was just a deer or an animal that maybe would just be out in the woods. However, after a while, they started to hear footsteps. And this started to unnerve them, so they opened up the tent to look out to see what was out there. But all there was this woodland without anyone or anything to be seen. Holding torches, they scanned left to right to see could they make out anything. And then all of a sudden, a child's giggle came out of nowhere, and they started to panic. They scanned with the torches left and right, and it was Ben, the male, that seen the figure of a child first dart from one tree trunk to the next, and then one tree trunk to the other one. And as Ben was focusing on this child going back and forth, all of a sudden it appeared right in front of them. Kylie would say she felt absolutely terrified, that she had heard about the stories in the news about black-eyed children in the area, but it wasn't until one was right in front of her that she could believe it. She said, quote, "I knew instantly that we were dealing with the real thing because it moved in ways humans simply can't move. It was like it could teleport from one place to another when it was moving around and hiding behind the trees." End quote. Ben, who was still shining his torch, had stood there staring at this creature, who had slightly dipped her head. And that is when this giggling started again. But the giggling this time was louder, and it became louder and louder and louder until it was in every direction around them and sounded like it was on top of them. They said, quote, "It really sounded like it was coming from all around us, even though I could see she was right in front of us. It was really disorientated for a few seconds." End quote. This little girl-like figure would then bend down to appear to be tying her shoes or fixing them as they stood back up, constantly and continuously staring at both Ben and Kylie. When she stood back up, she then darted off into the woods. Petrified, Ben and Kylie, ran into the tent and zipped it up, and remained in the tent until morning, praying that this wee girl would not come back to visit again. With the sun risen and all seeming calm, at 7 a.m. the couple exited the tent, and outside they found mounds of stone, spaced evenly all around the tent. They also found wood-like figures that they said reminded them of dream catchers. Shaken, the pair gathered up their stuff and put the tent away and headed back to the car that was only 15 minutes walking distance. But as they headed back to the car, Kylie started to see amongst the trees the little girl again. They started to run quicker as the girl still kept up with them. And eventually Kylie shouted, "Leave us alone!" And they would make it to the car and never again return. In 2015, an article on the expressandstar.com was published, and it was saying about new footage that had apparently shown the little girl walking through the woods. This little child was dressed in white with hollow black eyes and is said to haunt the chase and attracted teams of ghost hunters each and every year. The footage was taken by a man called Tom Buckmaster, who was 23 at the time, and he was a paranormal investigator. He said he was in the woods on October 10th, and at about 7 p.m., after 6 hours waiting around for an appearance of this figure, the figure appeared, and he believes that the ghost is in Cannock Chase, or the children of the murderer mechanic Raymond Leslie Morris, who killed 3 girls in the 1960s. He described the figure of a child dressed in white, and that you can see the legs moving as she walks. He didn't even know that he had captured the footage until he went through it later on that day. He said you could hear running on the footpath behind him, and at one point rocks rolled quickly from behind them and threw the group out of nowhere. They used the spirit box, and he said that they got weird voices on there. There were footsteps and voices saying, quote, "We're watching, we're looking." And then there was a male voice that came through saying, "He's coming." The footage shows a small white outline appearing to be stood several meters away from Tom's camera. And finally, in 2014, a young mother took her young boys to play in the woods. And during their playtime, they decided to climb a tree, and the mother decided that this would be a great opportunity to take a picture of the boys. It wasn't until later when she looked at the picture that you could see a hidden face at the side of the frame. Michelle Mason, who was the mother, stopped to take a picture of the children, and when she looked back over, she discovered what appeared to be a small child. She explained that, quote, "At the time, we were on a family walk one afternoon and the kids decided to climb a tree. I stopped to take a photograph, but it wasn't until I got home that I spotted the child's face looking back at me. I couldn't believe it when I looked closer at the picture, and there was a child standing with a wheel or hoop in their hair. End quote. Miss Mason, though, feels like this is not evil and that the child meant no malice towards her children. However, ghost hunters would argue that black-eyed children are notorious for bringing bad omen or bad luck to those who they want to interact with. They will enter your vehicles and come to your homes and knock on the doors, pleading with you to let them in. When you would refuse, they would get really angry and set fear and panic upon those inside. Whether you believe that the child is related to the murders or is a victim of the terror, there is many sightings in this Cannock Chase area that would prove to even the skeptic something must be out there. And that's it for today. That is the story of the black-eyed children at Cannock Chase. Hit the like button, subscribe to the group, and ring the hell out of that bell to keep up with notifications. Until next time, this was the good, the bad, and the pure evil.